people of province Alberta wants to separate from the rest of Canada. Is this has been clearly defined, and at the same time, and this was this like was this the majority of the residents of that particular province, like say not like 50, not like 50%, but like it has to be like like 60, 70, 80, like it has to be like like the has to be a landslide, and that's going to be a question. And also another red tape is like they also have to like make sure that the Aboriginals, like the indigenous people, have they been consulted? Have they had the fair say of whether they want to go with the independence or not? And this needs to get approved from House of Commons, the Senate, and also needs to get Royal Assent, meaning that the king or the king's representative, Governor General, she needs to approve it. So there.
Prove to me that you are alive.
What's going on in Canada? Because you've been one of the, I would say, strongest and fearless voices coming out of Canada. And I'll start with this. This is what I really want to know. Has there ever been a Canadian identity? And if there was, does it still exist, or are you guys losing that identity?
The last person who tried to develop this what can be called as Canadian identity was Prime Minister John Diefenbaker. He's like the only prime minister that he's also from the east, but he was the only one who lived a great deal of time in province of Saskatchewan. That's just north of Montana and North Dakota. So he's from the priors, like the Midwest of Canada. The only prime minister from the province who became the president, only person from that province to become prime minister. And he was the only one who was able to give a very lengthy speech on what it means to be Canadian. And one of the definition of being Canadian is not being afraid to speak his or her mind. But ever since him, the whole concept of Canadian identity is like, have you watched that animation Zootopia? It's like it's like you can be anyone can be anything, that kind of thing. So so what's been happening is this like swath of hyphenated Canadians. I mean, like for example, like you're brethren up here, like Ukrainian Canadians, they've been doing their things, right? They've been building like these like traditional Ukrainian villages. They celebrate the Ukrainians by dressed up in their traditional dress and have these gatherings, and it's like everybody's doing their own thing. Like we don't really try to get together and think, how can we go about continuing this Canadian nation building? And with the rise of multiculturalism, yes, everybody's been doing their own thing essentially.
So that's the big issue in America, right? Because obviously a lot of people will say like, I'm an American, but then something else comes along with it. I'm an Italian American, I'm an African American, I'm a Ukrainian American. And just like you pointed out, that each subgroup is kind of doing their own thing. So I think if, God forbid, a moment of truth would arise where this American identity would have to be put under question, I'm not really sure if all of these different subgroups and subdivisions would be ready to rise to the occasion and say like, yes, this is us, this is America, and we are ready to do this or that for America. And I think that the Canadian case is even worse, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because Canada, I think you guys are facing the same issues, just like you just pointed out. But on top of that, you're also facing the issue of possibly being like a, excuse my français, a half-ass United States. You understand? Like when the world is thinking about Canada, well, we sort of think like, yeah, Canada exists, but they're like America. They're like a extra part to America, right? So I think the crisis of what it means to be a Canadian is even worse in Canada. Am I crazy, or do you find that to be true?
I think you're on the money here, because the difference between United States and Canada is like the United States is a melting pot, right? People can come, people from all over the world came to America, and they uh, theoretically they became Americans. But here, well, it's what Canadians we call it the cultural mosaic. So that going back to my point, everybody's been doing their own thing, and it's there. And then like, lately we've been saying, yeah, we're all Canadians, but it's more like talking out loud in an echo chamber. It's not resonating. You know what I mean?
Um, are you planning on any new sort of book that would be a follow-up to the Canada Lost, with everything that is going on right now?
I should be working on a book now, but no, it's see though my strategical error was, if I write a good book, I might be able to develop a following without like being active on YouTube or on other social media. But it's the opposite. You got to have some presses before other people would like buy, read your works, especially if it's a book. Yeah. So I mean, I know I should be like more active in this like in this such challenging times, but I guess I'm too occupied with my personal issues and like with the business of helping out my family, right? So it's at this point, like this podcast is pretty much it's like the best community service that I can give to my fellow compatriots.
Well, listen, you better be ready, because we're coming close. Like, we're resolving a lot of issues with the shadow ban and every. Like, I don't want to run in front of the train, but I would just say that we're about to see, like, a new era of everything that we have been trying to do. So you should be ready, brother. You
Yeah,
should be ready.
I mean, for the first two videos, I mean, I'm okay that they got some, like they only got few, like didn't get as many views as we hoped, but because like the first one was oh man, I was like, it was like I was still in this like a self exile. So
Yeah.
and honestly, I haven't like talked to anybody for that long and for the past few years. So it's like it's like being in a solitary confinement. You try to talk to someone. It's not very easy. And the second one, it went kind of okay, but then again, I wasn't really like fully prepared for it. Like I wasn't kind of anticipating what kind of questions that you were asking. I mean, I was actually completely off guard when you asked about the SS Halisina dude. I should have gave you a better explain. I should have gave you a better explanation about what the unit was and what he did. But anyway, so I did for the past few weeks. I've been doing my best to like prepare for this podcast. Like it was kind of it's kind of like going back to my old days at the university. Like preparing for a presentation or a speech. So yeah, here I am try to be better at your service and to your viewers.
Nah, man, you're always on point. I just want to give you, a fair warning, but in a good way, that things are happening, things are developing, especially with guests that we are going to have. And I've been in works with YouTube and resolving these issues, because they kind of combined my artist page and the page where the podcast, like everything was a mess, man. So there was a problem with the shadow ban, but also there was a problem with the algorithm and the visibility
Okay.
with. But we're coming, man. So you better be ready. And the reason that I say that is because I truly believe in your cause. And I myself, besides, like, me, I myself would really like to see as many people to get exposed to your work. So listen, man. So what's going on? You guys went through this election. To us people that are not Canadian, what's what's going to happen with the whole Trudeau dynasty, and what's going on with your new prime minister? Like, what's been going on in Canada?
First of all, the name Justin Trudeau, it's gone. It's disappeared. Like it's gone with the wind. Like no one from the mainstream media says the name Justin Trudeau ever. So 10 years of 10 years of 10 years of that whole big, excuse my language, f up has been just largely forgotten. Now it's all about elbows up, standing against the bully Donald Trump and the United States who wants to buy a Canada at a discount. It's like we're not gonna have it. It's like elbows up. That's what's been going on during the election, and after the election, our new prime minister went down to visit Donald Trump, and the general consensus that he went there to kiss Trump's ring.
Kiss the ring of the dawn, right?
Yep, you bet.
Okay, but with this new prime minister, are you actually, because okay, so I'm going to give an example. Like in the United States, and I guess this was felt worldwide, is after Donald Trump assumed office, it seems like, it's been going nonstop, all of these different, developments, and things look like they're actually happening. Maybe they're not happening at a pace that we would like, but something is happening. Are you having any sort of this sort of sense in Canada? And are people, sort of hopeful, or was this like an uneventful occasion with switching of the prime minister?
People were actually very hopeful during the election, if I remember correctly. Like the conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, he despite he lost he lost his seat in his riding because he lost because the liberals they they pulled a real sleazy trick, but it's a long story. So, like, anyways, in short, like, essentially, he lost his seat, and conservative they failed to be the majority in the House of Commons. So that for the again for your American viewers, the way Canadian system works is that the political party that has the most number of seats in Parliament, the Canadian equivalent to the House of Congress, the leader of that party generally becomes the prime minister. And what this means is that Conservative Party of Canada failed to take up the most number of seats in the House of Commons, and the party in power now is the Liberals, and they don't have the majority to stay in power yet. So it means that they have to form like a coalition, an alliance with other party. But here's the funny thing: like they've been recounting the votes in some of these the ridings, the constituents, and it's funny because like they won in one riding in one place in Quebec. They recounted the vote, and by one vote, the person from the candidate from the Quebec party, the Bloc Québécois, they lost. This person lost the seat, and the Liberal candidate become the member of Parliament in that riding, which is funny. And that's not the only riding that things like this has been happening. So people are now screaming election fraud.
Wow. But so from everything you have told me before, Canada's facing a lot of issues, a lot of mental health issues, right? A lot of drug abuse, a lot of different policies that are actually going against the people. I don't know how far this whole euthanasia policy has gone, that we talked about before. That now people with severe mental health issues will have an option of going through euthanasia. Like all of these different issues that are actually visible, and especially someone like for you, that you can recall a Canada that was better, for a lack of a better term. Do you ever see the Canadian people uprising if things go way too south, or are you already at the point where things are going way too south and yet nothing is being done about it from the population side?
Well, that's the one development that I really wanted to talk about. Is the good people of the province of Alberta? They want to pull the plug on Canada, like they want to secede and became a independent country from from Canada. That's what's been going.
So what's going on there? Can you tell us more detail?
Well, they want to organize a independence referendum. Like they want to put this question on a referendum. Like they want do the people of Alberta wants to separate from the Confederation of Canada and become an independent sovereign state. So and the Albertan Premier Danielle Smith, she actually just lowered the bar on referendum, like I explained to you on my email. Like the provincial legislature, just this the they passed this legislation just recently that lowering the number of the signatures required to hold a referendum from like 660,000 to like 170,000. So they also extended the deadline from 90 days to 120 days. So she's not openly like claiming as a pro independence or as a leader of the independence herself, but she's making things easier for the grassroots organizations to get together and um, hold this referendum.
You know what's crazy is now that I think about it, we're not hearing anything about it in Western mass media. You might be the first person to vocally express this as far as I'm concerned. So my question is, where is this coming from? Why are the people in Alberta, well, why are the powers that be in Alberta want to proceed something like this? And second of all, how do you think the majority population in Alberta will handle something like this?
To explain that, you need to go over and review the history of Alberta. Like Alberta has been an oil and gas powerhouse for decades in Canada. Like starting in the 60s, like they found the huge reserve of oil reserves. Just that's called Ledoux. It's just south of Edmonton, the state capital, the provincial capital. So they found this like huge oil field, and they start developing it. And then next thing you know, there's even more like oil reserves all across like the province. So um, in a very short period of time, Alberta became the one of the major oil producers of Canada. If not, well, they do have the most like oil and gas in Canada. Like they're not the only one. Like their sister, like their neighbor province, Saskatchewan. They also have huge oil and gas reserves, and Manitoba, that's north of Minnesota. They don't have as much oil, but they do have some along the Saskatchewan and Manitoba border. So I'm going from like west to east, like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. They all produce oil, but Alberta is the Alberta is the king of oil and gas in Canada. And the Eastern overlords start this goes back to Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. He really wanted a big piece of this oil and gas revenue, right? So what he did was introducing this program. This it's a scheme, really. Like, but anyway, it was named National Energy Program. They like to add all these like fancy names to um their policies. So what they did was they're they're forcing Alberta to sell oil and gas at a discount if domestically, and if they want to export it to the United States, there's an export tax, and if you want to develop oil and gas wells, there's a tax, and the revenue they're supposed to send from like the oil and gas extractions, they raise that up. They double the revenue percentage that they're supposed to send back to the east, and also the what I've been saying in my past to podcast is the equalization payment. They're supposed to send a lot of a whole chunk of money to the other provinces, but as I said, that most of the money goes to Quebec and Ontario and the provinces in the Maritimes, the Atlantic Oceans. So Alberta has been the net loser in this predominantly pro-Eastern Canadian government. Uh, that's a liberal government for the past 4 decades. Yeah, starting in the 80s.
So this kind of sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of sounds very similar to actually what's going on in a sense in Ukraine, because in Ukraine the Donbass area were the
Mhm.
very and coal mines and like this place where it was sort of feeding the rest of Ukraine. So are you saying that Alberta is that area in Canada that's been feeding the rest of Canada and they're sort of tired of this?
Yeah, like the well, just remember what the Ukrainian diaspora scholars has been saying about Donbass. It's like region where all these these criminal characters come over from Russia and they work in these mines, and the way they do business in Donbass is like this is straight up criminal. Like you get these these mafias like running uh, excuse me, like running like coal mines or and all these like big factories. They're leftovers from the Soviet days. It, there's definitely similar narrative that's going on in Eastern Canada. It's like Alberta is like sort of like the this like uncultured, underdeveloped place where all they do is just making money off these dirty oil, gas, and they're just rednecks and hillbillies who don't know better. There's a stigma in the East, and I could definitely feel it when I was in Ottawa.
So what do you think is, again, from all of your knowledge, what do you think is a possibility that this might actually happen, where let's say a referendum goes through, Alberta separates, like how likely is that scenario? And also, just for me, I'm a Ukrainian American, the confusing part to me also is, where does the United Kingdom tie into all of this? Because um you guys are still, so correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are still sort of you're a part of the greater Great Britain, man. Like how will that work?
Well, so let's just say that the if referendums go through and the majority of Albertans vote for yes instead of no, then that referendum is gonna go to the House of Commons, the Parliament, our Congress. So before I begin, I need to mention this. There was actually independence referendum before, not in Alberta but in Quebec. The most recent one was in 1995. Uh, and Quebec, like there was only like narrow split margin between like the yes and the no sides, like by like 0.5%. Anyways, like the yes side won, and Quebec decided to stay within the Confederation. But so what the government did after was passing this bill called Clarity Act in 1999. So basically, if you want an independence referendum, you have to put that the independence put this put this question about do you guys do we want to separate from the rest of Canada on referendum, and the clarity of that question is subject to debate at the House of Commons. So essentially, so it's funny because like theoretically there is a legislation that opened the door to secession, but there's all these like red tapes you got to go through. Like first of all, the House of Commons is going to debate whether the question that was on referendum, like do we like let's just say like the people of province Alberta wants to separate from the rest of Canada, is this has been clearly defined, and at the same time, and this was this like what was the majority of the residents of that particular province, like say not like 50, not like 50%, but like it has to be like the measure like 60, 70, 80. Like it has to be like predom like the has to be a has to be a landslide, and that's going to be a question. And also another red tape is like they also have to like make sure that the Aboriginals, like the indigenous people, have they been consulted? Have they had the fair say of whether they want to
Right.
go with the independence or not? And this needs to get approved from House of Commons, the Senate, and also needs to get Royal Assent, meaning that the king or the king's representative, Governor General, she needs to approve it. So technically you can separate, but you gotta go through so many hurdles. It's
There's all
almost
these loopholes, right?
yep, you bet. And funny thing is that all these independence advocates from Alberta, they're not saying this open out loud. These lawyers, especially, like they should know better than anyone about this. But it's like, oh yeah, as long as we have this clear question based on the Clarity Act, as long as we have this like clearly defined questions and we put this on referendum, if it goes through, yeah, then we can just walk away from Canada. It's as simple as that. No, it's not. It's funny, really.
What do you think? What do you think would happen to Canada if something like this would actually happen? And let's say they go through all of these hurdles and loopholes, and it actually is done. They separate. What do you think would happen in Canada? First of all, economically, and second of all, demographically. Do you think that following something like this, other regions would want to do the same?
Well, let me try to say this in one word, po-ukrainsky in Ukrainian. Well, what the worst thing that can happen is Volhynia. We could have like ethnic violence that we have never seen before. I guess like one that's sort of like looming on the horizon is like this like ethnic violence between the indigenous population, like the First Nation, what we call First Nations, or like Native Canadians, like or and the Canadians of European heritage. I mean, one silly example that I found when I was like reading through these comments um, on these videos on YouTube about like this news report was this person was I'm assuming he's white. He said like, yeah, I'm so sick and tired of all these natives going on the free ride on my dime. And now the person replied, I'm assuming he or she is indigenous, and he said, your mom's a free ride. And this person,
Ooh.
yeah, it's pretty funny. And I was kind of stupid enough to tell my parents about it, but anyways, and this person retaliated even harder. It's like, your mom is a Red's bicycle. Everybody gets to ride on. I thought it's funny at the same time, but then again, these things are kind of like a precursor to ethnic violence. So I mean, I left so hard at the time, but now that I'm thinking, yeah, I'm starting to get worried about this.
So this leads me to a very extremely interesting email that you sent, and with your permission, I'm going to plug the paintings that you sent into the video in post production. So you sent me a paintings, the works of Kent Monkman, and you said he's a Cree painter who's well known for his avant-garde controversial works in Canada. And these are very like very telling to say the least illustrations. Can you get into that? Can you get into the because you said a lot of very important things, and I can read it if you want, but if you can recall, I'm pretty sure you can recall what I'm talking about. And if you can get into this Aboriginal, well, what we call Aboriginal people, or the native people, we can call them Indian, whatever. And because from what I understand, this is a specific tribe or a specific group, or this is the collection of different tribes and different indigenous groups in Canada. But can you get into that email that you sent me, and into some of the work of Kent Monkman?
Well, when I first heard about his work back in like late like 2010s, like 2018 or 2019. I saw the painting, and one of my friend who's part part Aboriginal, like native. He said, yeah, he said bluntly, yeah, this is straight up Hollywood, man. This is not accurate, because the I understand why they're doing this, but lately they've been getting into this like creative history. Like they try to like recreate history in a way that fits their narrative or agenda, and it's really not helping with like bringing people together, but it's actually driving the wedge between the people. So that's what concerns me. So, and like the video that I sent you, it clearly shows that there's this contingent of the Aboriginal people in Canada that believes that the people who are not Aboriginal, they're sort of like they have this like duty to uh, support them, like by like paying taxes, and by that I mean like paying taxes that goes to these native these native reserves that to fund their like as a for to fund their welfare programs and whatnot. So it seems like they're like just like chaining them to the forever to this like this to this sacred duty of supporting the indigenous population for as long as it takes, or almost like forever. And yeah, so
Okay.
we're creating this like a two-tier system where like where there's like a small number of indigenous population that are upheld or supported by the rest of the population.
Because some of these paintings are very graphic, very telling.
Yep.
I'm looking at one right now where it's an indigenous man in high heels,
Yep.
with earrings, like giving off a female vibe. So, it's telling me that the artist is trying to portray how much of this so-called Western Eurocentric liberal mentality has infiltrated into the indigenous people. And I'm going to follow up with this question, because I myself traveled to the reservations in the United States. I went to the Blackfeet reservation that's in Montana. Maybe you heard about them, because there's a part, from what I understand, there's a part of the Blackfeet tribe in southern Canada as well.
Yep. Yep. They are. It's southern Alberta, I believe.
Right. And what I see, what I seen on the reservation shocked me. This is still one of the biggest population wise reservations in the United States. And I kid you not, man, as soon as you go into the reservation, you feel like you're in the third world. I seen stray dogs running around, which I haven't seen that since I came from Ukraine in the 90s. It was completely poverty stricken, is to say the least. Huge problems with drugs and alcohol, and even the life expectancy there. I spoke to the locals. They said that the life expectancy for a man, it's like 44 years old. So what I seen is that here are these people that are supposedly indigenous to this land, that have, for a lack of a better term, have been spiritually completely been taken over, and there's very little of their identity left. But it also looks like they are struggling with accepting this new form of living that has been imposed on them. So what is it like in Canada as far as the indigenous population, and what are some of their issues that they are having, as far as the way they are, treated or perceived, or their way of life? Like, what is it like in Canada?
Oh man, I could go on and on about this. I do talk about this in my first book, Canada Lost. I actually have experience of living in reserve land on and off for about a year, a little over a year, I guess. So I saw this with my own eyes, and it still trolls me to this day. But so where do I even begin? Oh man. Well, yeah, the so like the in can I don't I'm not too sure about, I should know this, but I'm not too sure about how things in the United States were done. But I mean I know that they buzzed up the survivors from all these Indian wars, and they locked up in these Indian reservation in the United States. Similar thing happened in Canada. So what they did was they're sort of almost there was like they actually had like almost like a gun to their head, and they're well, metaphorically, like literally, but like they the they were forced almost like situation where they had no choice but to sign these the agreements, what we call treaties, with the Canadian government and British Crown, so that they forever surrendered their land and whatever they had, like all the resources to they the resource to the government and the crown. And in return, they were promised to get, like, medical care and the farm equipments and yada yada. But the one thing that's like the core of the problem in the reserves is that there are no private property, like no real estates there. They can be held as a private property. I mean, you can get like a permission from the Department of Indian Affairs, but that's almost non-existent. I haven't heard of a case like so so the government technically they require to supply housings in these reserves, but I mean, if you don't own it, people generally are not willing to spend their own dime and take care of these free housings. So these housings, even if they knew, they're just like not well taken care of. They're run down and they're like the windows are broken. You go through there, you see all these, like, they look relatively new, but they're all like boarded up and like they're just like not well maintained. So that's one common problem that's happening in all these reserves. And because they're far from city centers, they don't have like a central water system, and the water wells they're installed in the reserves, they're not well maintained. So there's like well over 100 reserves that have boil water advisory. So I mean, I can go on and on about this, but yes.
Yeah, this is super interesting. So since you've seen it internally, this is very important. So I'm wondering this, because what I seen in the Blackfeet reservation, first of all, I seen that the local population is very much already um genetically mixed with other peoples and other races, meaning that to find an actual Blackfoot um person is very tough as far as genetically goes. Second, what I've noticed is that they sort of have, like, I knew this one woman, right? And her dad, and like they tell me, like, oh well, look, we own 300 acres of land, right? So I'm like, okay, wow. For a New Yorker, I'm like, Jesus, 300 acres, what the heck does that look like? It's a whole city, man. But when you go to see these 300 acres, it's like this desolate land. You can't really do anything with it. And again, second of all, what I noticed is heavy alcoholism. The only source of economy that they have are these casinos. So I'm trying to get a sense of, are things the same in Canada? Are there still, genetically people that belong to this or that tribe, genetically really literally are a part of the this or that tribe, or are they already assimilated, are they already mixed in, and what is life like in the Canadian side of these reserves, as you say? Are they independent? Because in the United States, they say that they are independent, but I see that they're not really independent. So I'm trying to get a sense of, and again, since you've been there, like, what is it really like on these reserves in Canada? What is life like there?
Basically, it's a system that works in the interest of every first well, we call it Indian. Well, legally they're called Indian reserves. We like to call it First Nation reserves. The people who are in power, they're the chiefs, and under like they have like election every 2 years. 2 years, if I remember correctly. They elect their chief, and under the chief there's like councillors, like they're like the ministers. They have, because technically they're supposed to like kind of like a self-government, so they have councillors. Chiefs and councillors, they get the lion's shares of the money that are flowing to the reserves. That's like well-known secret in Canada. And there are so many reserves that these chiefs and councillors manage resource horribly, so that people get only like very small portion of that money, and the rest of these chiefs, they use that fund to, like, buy brand new Ford Super Duty trucks, go to casino, and go on vacation. It's
So corruption.
corruption is a huge problem in the reserves, and they really don't want to. They really like don't like people talk, like people who are like not from the reserves or not First Nations or indigenous people talking about it. But it's a well-known secret, and in fact, like the when during back when we had a conservative government, like they were supposed to do audit every year. They were supposed to publish it, so it's a public like how they manage their finance. It should be a public knowledge.
Prove to me that you are alive.
But Trudeau, he's been a big friends of these chiefs and councillors. So he said, okay, okay, we respect your sovereignty. You guys don't have to publish your audits. Yeah, it's been bonkers, man. That's why so many of these chiefs, like they in Alberta, they're so against independence, because they don't want. They're not exactly interested in transparency. I hate to say it, but that seems to be the case.
But did you see some of the issues that I described here on the American side, where it's, these reservations are poverty stricken, high alcohol, high drug use, life expectancy short? Or in Canada, is it different? And are these people, hardworking people that are working for, maybe not the greater good of Canada, but at least the greater good of their tribe?
Well, I can tell you that some of the stereotypes, like like 100% of these like natives, they don't want to work. They just want to They just want to go on free ride on our time. That's not true. There are people who are really willing to put in the work. They work hard, but at the same time, there's like chiefs, counselors, and people who are in government. They do abuse their heritage to get whatever they can out of the system. And I've been following these, like the pro independence activists in Alberta, and there's this one person that's very active. He posts this video on his channel that he goes through these reserves, and he talks about how, like, this one reserve that's west of Calgary, that's one of the major cities in southern Alberta. That in that province, 60%. This is one example, but 60% of the adult population are drug addicts. So that's one example. And drug like the like drug addiction or alcoholism is such a huge problem in the reserves. And I don't know, when I was there, I feel like I'm almost like a bartender. I've seen so many people who are like, who are drinking and driving, and who are like doing, who are sniffing, through their noses when they're driving, or when they come to the store. It's just, yeah. It's
How
just
were
crazy.
how were you received as an outsider?
Well, it's like some are like, welcoming, some are not. It was a mixed bag. Like I can't really say, like, uh it's like somewhere in between, like, somewhere, okay, you're okay, you're welcome to be here, and somewhere, oh, you foreigner, what are you doing here? You're just like the white people who came to F1.
White man.
Yep, yeah. The evil white man.
Okay, so this leads me to a question about racism from the side of the First Nation people, and I'm just gonna read this real quick. It came from your email. You said, in sum, Canada's First People are resentful because they believe what they valued the most, their land and their youth, were forcefully taken away by European settlers and the Canadian government. The children were sent to residential schools, and are probably, because the schools were looked after by the Catholic Church, many weren't treated so well. However, the approach they have taken in making up for their grievances is unhealthy and not constructive, to say the least. Mockman's people have been busy constructing revisionist narrative and claiming how they deserve special status for being the only people who are truly indigenous to this land. Everyone else, regardless of whether they were born here or elsewhere, is destined to be under their servitude forever and must respect the supreme status unquestionably. So, can you break that down, and can you tell us are you guys facing the same sort of racist card that is being used by black people in the United States? Are you seeing the same thing from the indigenous side?
Oh yes, totally. Yeah. So the one example that I told you about, the residential school, that's actually one of the key, really, the hot issue that in Canada, at the moment, is that these activists has been going around these like random graves, with the like the what do you call it? What do you call it? Like the raiders or scanners. They've been scanning these random places, like, that they used to be like this.
What?
Mm, yeah, like, so they what they do is like they scan all these like random places and find these what they call anomalies, and they're basically, it could be anything really. It could be just like, like the pile of rocks, or it could be like animal barrel, or some like the or like some like a deceased person who were like, who could have died like, 50 years ago, or a few hundred years ago. You don't even know it. But if they found anything, they call it, oh, it's mostly the remains of the children who were abused and buried in secrets from these residential schools. And they start like shedding crocodile tears. And next thing you know, you have these like all these reserves coming in. Oh, we found like, the new like dozens of like these marked graves. And this just proves that all these like what the evil white men done to us. And yeah, we want compensation for this. And there should be a really thorough investigation into all these claims, but there really hasn't. And what's really concerning is that I don't know if this legislation has passed or not, but it's like, that they're like do they have this legislation in the United States where if you deny Holocaust, like that can be a crime. Like,
Mhm.
there's similar the effort that's going on in Canada. They want to make the questioning of these unmarked graves, like residential schools, illegal, so that they want to create this, like, there was actually a deliberate effort to conduct a genocide against the young indigenous population of Canada. But in some cases that's not true, because like there are cases, some like the native chiefs, they actually saw benefits in their children pursuing Western educations. They did actually invited people from the government and the church to set up boarding schools in the reserves. So that this is like this common narrative. The government and the Catholic Church set up residential schools, and they press gang all these innocent kids and sent them these horrible places. And that's the common narrative, but it's not 100% accurate.
Hmm. You know, in the United States and Canada, um, there's definitely a lot of points of reconciliation that needs to happen between the natives, which are not, they hardly have a voice here in the United States, but from what I understand, in Canada they do. The people that were brought here with the African slave trade, all these different minority groups. So there, from what I understand, there needs to be some sort of reconciliation, but also from everything that I know and everything that I've gathered, that the powers that be have been successfully using all of these different, race cards and nationalities and this and that. And the kids are being taught that, it's the evil white man, without realizing, well, there are Slavic people, well, the Irish were also enslaved, or like, these things are not really being taught purposely, I think, because they kind of need to keep people in a sense divided. So that leads me to this question, man. And unless you have anything else that you want to talk about, we can wrap up here. But again, I'm here to listen to everything you have to say. So let's say tomorrow, Orwell McLee becomes the supreme leader of Canada, not a prime minister, a leader, a true leader of Canada, where you have all the power. You're not answering to the crown, you're not answering to anybody, man. What will Orwell McLee do in Canada? And you're the best person to ask about this, because you actually wrote a book about this. What would you do, and what would you like to see Canada like? And that's taken into consideration the issues you have with the different subgroups, minorities, and also the First Nation people. Like, taking all of this into consideration, what would you like to see happen, and how would you take Canada into the future on a national scale, but also international scale?
First thing Canada needs the most is transparency. Before like law and order or any of that. Like we need transparency. Like we need people like not keeping these key informations uh, hidden from the eyes of the public. We need to we need to bring this up to the surface and examine it. And if there's a problem, yeah, we gotta call BS. If there's a BS, then we gotta call it out for what it is, man. But oh, that's just not what's happening. And I'm actually glad that the people of Alberta are the willing to like sort of like the uh, do the heavy lifting for.
Step up to the occasion, right?
But I fear that they're. I mean, it's like I. This is gonna make a lot of Albertans mad, but a lot of Albertans they're not who they say they are. I mean, they like to say they're like all like patriotic, hardworking, good, just uh, people. But no, I've seen plenty of assholes from Alberta, and I used to think two A's in Alberta, one stands for arrogance, and other one stands for assholes. And I lived in the heart of the oil country. I won't say which of the three provinces, but I've seen plenty of asshole Albertans, and they're not what they say they are, unfortunately. And time after time, they've been repeating the same mistake over and over. Like they assuming that the trucker convoy, for example, like people, a lot of people from West went there thinking that if we just hold we just if we just make lives in like the lives of the Ottomans miserable for for a few weeks, so people eventually gonna pull out the white flag. Oh, they'll surrender, they'll give us what we want. But that's such a naive thinking. And you heard what I said about that legislation that technically that you can succeed from Canada, but you gotta go through so many red tapes. It's pretty much impossible, next to impossible. And the people who should know best about this are not talking, not mentioning to the general public in Alberta. That concerns me. And so essentially what's happening right now is that people like this one saying from this one important saying from the Sun Tzu's Art of War, like you gotta know your enemy in order to win the battle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Albertans don't seem to understand the Easterners, like the people who have power in Canada that well. They think if they can just create get this referendum going, they can just pull the plug on Canada. It's not going to be easy. And they don't. I don't want to discourage them, but unfortunately, I don't really think they're ready for they're ready for it. Because I mean, I could go on and on about this, but Quebec, for example, like they've been masquerading themselves as an independent nation, although they're still a part of Canada because part of the reason is because so much money has been coming from Alberta and the Western Canada, so they can, even if they manage their business horribly, there's always some they have their research colony to make up for all that the mismanagement, right? And it's such a folly idea to think that they're going to give up that privilege. And also, just recently, the Quebec premier, Yves Francois Boucher, he actually scoffed at Alberta, saying that Alberta doesn't have culture, and Albertas don't have nation.
Right.
And a lot of Albertans were pissed off. It was like, what are you talking about? We got this culture. We got this wonderful, the independent and the hardworking, the family friendly culture. But well, what I've seen is it's essentially a copycat version of redneck hillbilly culture, like you see from the American South. And people, like like all these like people with these like jacked up trucks, like doing mudding and stuff. I mean,
Hunting alligators.
yep, yeah, like Duck Dynasty, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I see the similar thing up there, and Albertans are underestimating just how well Quebec has been continuing this business of nation building. They're at least 2-3 centuries ahead of them, and I can't. I can't help but to worry that they're underestimating just how far Quebec is ahead
Right.
in this business of nation building. So
And
there's that.
they have been actually able to maintain a culture. When we think of Quebec, we know that these people speak French. These people, they're different, to say the least, right?
Yes, you're 100% correct on that one.
So you think that's what Alberta is lacking. But I want to go back to the original question. All
Sure.
gloves are off. You
Yep.
are the supreme leader. How do you think the reconciliation between regions and nations and parts of Canada needs to happen? And what would you like to see, where would you like to see Canada go into the bright future?
One thing that really needs to be done is that see what I've been saying is that the power in Canada is lopsided. It's definitely favoring Eastern Canada, like particularly Ontario and Quebec. Is because they have the peop the they have the they have most number of the ridings or constituents in the parliament. So which means that the member of the parliament in they're mostly from Ontario and Quebec, and the same for the Senate as well. Like see the United States, like in the Senate, no matter if it's California, Texas, or Alaska, they only have 2 senators per state, right? So there's equal representation. Canada, it's not. It's so lopsided. It's not even funny. Like the bulk of the senates are made up of people from Ontario and Quebec, and there was this sort of like gentleman's agreement for the longest time that you can't. The senators here are not elected; they're appointed by prime minister or governor general. I should know this. But anyways, my point is that you're not supposed to pick your best friend and make him into a senate. That senator. That's totally unfair. Like it has to be someone who's respected, who's made lots of positive contribution to Canada. That then that person is the general consensus, general public agrees that this person is worthy of being senator. That person has been traditionally these kind of people are appointed as senator. But Trudeau, he broke that gentleman's agreement. He's been just cherry picking his best buddies and planting in the Senate. So there is there's like we're so far away from this equal representation in Canada. So that regional imbalance, fixing that will be my priority. And and I will look into ending equalization payment, like Quebec, Ontario. You guys gotta get your shit together. Pardon my Francais, but and stop milking off Western provinces. Let them have let them enjoy the fruit. Let them enjoy the fruits of their labor, and you better get your ass up and start working and do something with your lives, rather than try to rip off Western, just ripping off Alberta, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia too, because they're I think they're net contributor to the equalization payment. So that's what needs to happen.
Because I don't mean to insult you or any other Canadian, but I think that a major
Oh,
issue.
pardon me. I should say this before I forget. One thing that we really need to do is that we should become a republic with constitution. That means we elect this whole idea of Westminster system, this parliamentary democracy, where we have like king as the represent, the monarchy as the head of state. It's such an outdated system, eh?
Mhm.
And the one thing that, oh man, it's gonna take a while to explain it, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. There was actually a political movement in the late 80s and 90s from Western Canada. They had a political party called the Reform Party. They were actually the third at one time. They had like 50, 60 seats in the parliament. They're actually, and it was led by this gentleman. His name is Preston Manning. So he was the son of the longest serving premier of Alberta in history. So he comes from he's of the English heritage. So it's like you can't get any more Western Canadian than that. But the whole idea of reforming the system that can't be reformed, that I always thought that name shows that even back then they didn't understand their opponents well, and 40 years later they still don't understand their opponents. Like they still don't have any idea who these people are, what kind of people they are. So that's what's worrying me. And I'm sorry, apologize for stop interrupting you there, but please, yeah, go ahead and ask me the question that you're going to ask me.
Nah, man, it's very informative. I
Yeah.
was just gonna say this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't think enough people are talking about it. Is that one of the big issues that I think Canada faces is an issue of the demographics, and what I mean about that is that for such a large yet very resourcefully rich nation and land, you guys just don't have the population. And if Canada does not resolve their differences, it comes together, like you said, maybe, forms a republic or whatever, I'm afraid that Canada, in fact, maybe not under Trump 2.0, but sometime later will be swallowed up by another, you know um great superpower as the neighbor of the United States. What do you think about that?
Well, here's one small but very significant example that not many people have noticed in Canada. Sunoco, the largest fuel supplier in North America, they just bought Parkland Industries. That's the largest re- fuel fuel supplier in Western Canada. And the funny thing is that the neoliberal government, they're all about the pro environment, right? Like they don't they want us to stop buying uh, cars with combustion engines, but that means that in general understanding of the business for the fossil fuel suppliers or people in oil and gas, it's going to be bad for them. But then again, why would Americans spend all that, like 9 billion, like they spend like $9 billion to buy this business if they see that there's not going to be more like there's going to be like less demands for fossil fuel in the future. So maybe the 51st state thing is on the way, and Canadians, they'll be forced to become Americans sooner than a lot of us may think we do. But I mean, well, I mean, everything was on the table, right? I mean, ideally, what I like to see is that the if Eastern Canada can really come back to their senses, then it'd be better for like not just Alberta, but all four Western provinces. Starting from I'm gonna go from west to east: British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, becoming an independent state. But I don't know. Before that can happen, maybe all America will just swallow us up, and turn us into 51st state. And I mean, my guess is that they're not going to make us into states, but maybe it's like a kind of like a Puerto Rico of the North, like because they don't really want people from North tipping up the political balance between the Democrats and the Republicans. I can totally see that. So
Yeah.
they're not going to give us uh, to cast our votes
Yeah.
in the presidential or in elections,
Mhm.
because they don't really want like a whole bunch of lefties like tip from Canada, or a whole bunch of these like the rednecks from Alberta or Saskatchewan, like tipping up the balance. And in order for us to give up the voting rights, although our system it seems our election has proved that our system it seems to be rigged, in my opinion. But some like we have to be in such a dire situation, like huge economic crisis or the complete collapse of like Canada, like Venezuela scenario. Like until then, like I don't really see that many people willing to just give up our Canadianness and become second class Americans.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just again, if we think about geopolitics, one of the very crucial signs, if you will, of a superpower is definitely the demographics and the population wise. um you need, like, it's good to have all that land, but you need a population to back up that whole land. And even in America, us being like 400 billion, I think we're suffering with demographics, where countries like, even though you listed all the issues of India and China, but you know those countries, population wise, they're growing out of control. um so I think, to me, that would be one of the biggest issues of for Canada, is the lack of the population. um and them, you guys just being swallowed up by the greater United States. So is there anything else? We're almost hitting 2 hours. Is there anything else that we forgot to talk about today?
One thing that I can explain a little more is this
Please.
effort to increase the population in Canada to what was it 100 million by like 2050. But the way they are doing it is completely not self-sustainable. Like, so what I mean by what I mean by not self-sustainable is that they're not bringing people who are self-reliant. People with money who can like, like maybe like start their own business, or they have like enough education uh, to like pursue a higher education here and become a more productive member of the Canadian society. But they're bringing people who are basically interested in getting handouts, and or people who have money but they just want to buy up like do like easy things, buy up like the apartment and be a landlord, that kind of thing. So they're technically they're not being exactly being a helpful member of the society, but they're rather being problematic. I hate to put it this way, but there's just no way around this. So, and that's going to add more strains to the healthcare system, the welfare system, and it's going to make politics and our society more divisive, right? Because I mean, it took me nearly 20 years to start digging into like the Canadian politics. I started off as like an international relations major, and I thought, I'm not, I wasn't born here. I'm not a white Canadian, or what we like to call like old stock Canadians. Um, it's not, I don't have the authority to speak openly about Canadian politics until, well, I started. I went that was like, and I even like first 2 years in Ottawa, I knew something wasn't right, but I was like, I have to get a job in the public sector anyways, and I don't want to diss my
Mm.
possible future employers, that openly, and forever jeopardize my chance of getting a position in the public sector. So I refrained from it, but now I for mine and my family's survival and the like-minded people that in Canada, like, I do have to do so. I see the need to do something, bare minimum, and I wish I could do more, but I just I'm sorry that this is best I can do. Yeah, but
Listen, man, you know, uh, I've been around like a lot of people, a lot of we've been fortunate enough, thank God, to have many wonderful guests and people with, voices. I must say that as far as Canada is concerned, Orwell McLee is, first of all, very underrated and very underappreciated. I think that I cannot think of another voice coming out of Canada that has been able to have such a honest look, yet be brave enough to talk about it, to write books about it, and to, actually pursue what you believe in. Like, you're this generation's voice for Canada, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I can't really pinpoint anyone else. It seems like Canadians, maybe not passive, but maybe Canadians have sort of this like a false um uh, intellectual side, where like, oh, we're these, nice folks, and we're not ready to go fight for hours, man, and we're just gonna step aside and let things happen. And yet you are that voice of Canada. Little do you know, immigrant kid came to Canada, and you are more Canadian than the Canadians are. You see what I'm saying?
I first heard that compliment from your brethren. I'm more tech. Well, she thought I was more Ukrainian than her own people. So even despite everything that has happened, I sort of kind of wear that as a badge of honor, because that means I'm actually good at what I'm doing.
Yes, sir.
And with respect to respect to my competitors, let's call it that, like these Canadian YouTubers who are like just beating the war drums. Oh yeah, the Canadians are. Oh yeah, we were fighting so hard. We're gonna, we're gonna we're gonna, like, defeat the Mark Carney, the new prime minister, this evil liberal government, and we're gonna in Alberta. There's so many good people in Alberta will rise up, and they're freedom fighters. They're gonna go get their independence. But no, I mean, I guess it's easy for some people to do that. But that's so difficult for me to do. I guess I mean, my the MBTI is INFJ. It's like one of the rarest personalities in the world. I just don't have it in my blood, man. Unfortunately, I mean, I wish I did and have hundreds of thousands of people following me, but no, I can't even do it at gunpoint. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, man. You are definitely a voice that needs to be paid attention to. And like I mentioned before, I thought about this because I myself also am an immigrant, and it seems like we are more, Canadian or more American than the Americans that were born here. Why? Because we move to these countries with the idea that these are much better places than where we come from. Do we bring our own culture? Sure, we bring a parts of it, but we become more patriotic than the people that are born here because we came here with the vision of being that land of opportunity, and we want to partake in continuing to build this land of dreams and opportunities where um the native people, meaning the people that were born here, are they're kind of past that already because they're so used to whatever they have been living in, man. So I think definitely that you are, in my opinion, the most necessary and strongest voice and just voice in Canada. That's why I keep, that's why we're good friends now, and I keep inviting you back, is because everything that you have to say is extremely important, and I really pray that people in Canada start paying attention and start listening, man. So if there's anything else, please let me know.
Yeah, so I mean, I keep coming back to your channel because, I mean, you said yourself you are a child of immigrants, and I feel like, I think we're in the same boat, and that's the reason why I can speak my mind frankly, like very openly, like, and honestly. Like, I can't talk like this to my fellow Canadians because they're not gonna like what they're gonna hear, and they don't. And more importantly, they don't like taking advice from immigrants, especially the one that looks like me. I mean, yeah, I remember. That the Russian the Russian army recruiting it, the very religious ones. Like you have these like Orthodox Christian soldier praying, and you have like Muslim soldier praying. You have these. I'm assuming he's from like Siberia, like kissing the rosary before he's taking a shot with his sniper rifle. And I'm still not willing to disclose my ethnicity, but name of my tribe is in one of the commercial at the end. Is like, yeah, we are like Tatars, we are Chechens, we are like Abars, we are like, like they show us all the names, and yours as well, Ukrainian, and we are all Russians.
Yeah.
Tsunami Vogue, like God bless us, or and my name of my tribe is in there. I did watch the video a few days ago just because I really wanted to confirm it, and my name of my tribe is there. So I'm like, so I guess I belong to Ruski Mir. But then again, man, I lived in the system for first 11 years, and I can't say I want to go back to it. Like, like the beating up kids at schools, like teachers beating up kids. That alone is one of many examples that I do not want to go back to the system. And yeah, and I mean, I really, I know this is a tough call, but I really want people, especially immigrants, to appreciate what you have in Canada and the United States as well. I mean, it's something that we should cherish and safeguard, not something that we should cast away and buy into this like divisive narrative that just creates more hate. And
Absolutely.
the reason, and another thing, the reason why I was so pissed off about Trudeau is not because he's corrupt and incompetent, but he really was playing with this tribalism fire. That's
Mm.
what I call it in my book. Like he was like, I in one of my videos of my channel, I showed this Justin Trudeau, like yelling back at one of this heckler who was like, if you're not gonna support Ukraine, then go away. This night is here. This is for this great, wonderful Ukrainian people here, not for you. And that alone to me is like basically open invitation for the ethnic cleansing, really. And he has no idea what he was doing and what kind of shitstorm he can create. Pardon my French again, but there's just there's no other way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. People like you remind me of the movement that we have here, the movement of Prove to Me Your Life, the movement of Romania Poet and NazareN, and all these different things that we have going on. Is basically, we are the children of this world, and Mother Nature, at any moment that it wants, it can spit us out of here, man. An earthquake comes, or a great flood, or whatever, whatever. And we're so busy focusing on our differences and whose land is this and whose country that and the flag or whatever, that we are forgetting that, again, this is our home and we only have this one home. So my big part of the mission is, I think, what is your big part of the mission in Canada. And this is why we agree that we need to start really coming together, realizing that all peoples, all cultures, we all suffered. History has been very turbulent, but unless we start really coming together, respecting each other's differences, and trying to figure out a way to move forward, we're not gonna go anywhere, man.
I totally agree. And for the as for the first two podcasts, I mean, first one was, I mean, you said nice things about it, but it was kind of, in my opinion, it was kind of a disaster. And the second one, I did better, thankfully. And I think today, I think I did a lot better than those two previous podcasts. So I really hope this one goes viral and you can finally, find the crack through the YouTube, the censorship regime, and hopefully it goes. A lot of people, especially from here, like they watch it. And if I can get it, I don't know if they invite me to their podcast or they want to have an interview with me, I'll be happy to oblige, man. Like really, like I really want this. I really want your channel to grow, and because that means my work becomes very easier. Like I don't have to like start producing my own contents and like
We're
so.
we're, we're gonna grow together, brother.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
gonna grow
that's
together, man.
yeah, that's hopefully. I did this more for you and your channel, like not for me. Like I
Thank
want you to grow. Like even you have some like really high caliber guests, and like Pana Yegrova. Like how do you get in reach with these people, man? Like it's amazing. Like it's amazing what you can do. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank God, man. Thank God. It's I'm very thankful because all these people are have truly showed me that they're not faking, that they are really part of the cause. They really want to see some changes, and it's been very big to me in finding faith back in humanity overall, and that's why we do this, brother. So we're gonna grow. Thank you so much for being here. You are a brother to this channel. You are family. And like I said, be ready, man, because it's coming, man. All the good stuff is coming. And if people before weren't ready to hear, because you're ahead of your time, weren't ready to hear what you had to say, I think the time right now is coming where even if they're not ready, they're gonna have to listen, man. So Orwell McLee, thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for who you are. I always say this to everyone, to the guests that are here, because I truly believe in it. You are a blessing and a gift to Canada, to this world. And please come back at any time, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. So
Thank
it's
you.
always, yeah, it's always a pleasure being on your channel. Really.
Thank you. Give my regards to your wonderful family, man, for partaking and raising such a good young man. Thank you, man.
Yeah, will do, and they really appreciate you for giving me the opportunity, to share my opinion with the world. Yeah,
You're giving us the opportunity, so thank you so much, brother, man. Together, only together, man.
yeah, happy to be at your service at any time. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. God bless you, man. I'll see you later.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah, do pobачення.
До побачення.